strengthened through continually improving eye-hand coordination. There is considerable improvement in handwriting skills. Oh yeah. We gain mastery over the mechanics of language, gradually eliminating the logical gaps in our stories. As intense preoccupation with the whole vision gives way to preoccupation with correctness. Yeah. As a result, our writing and oral story become increasingly conventional and literal, with an accompanying loss of the spontaneity and originality that characterized our earlier efforts. At this stage, our vocabulary is firmly grounded. We use words everyone else uses. We have little need to invent metaphors to communicate. By now we know that a star is a hot gaseous mass floating in space. To our innocent stage when we notice, look, that star is like a flower without a stem. Oh, remember. In contrast to our innocent stage when we notice, look, that star is like a flower without a stem. Without a stem. Oh yeah, yeah. We gain mastery over the mechanics of language, gradually eliminating the logical gaps in our stories. As intense preoccupation with the whole vision gives way to preoccupation with correctness. Yeah. As a result, our writing and oral story become increasingly conventional and literal, with an accompanying loss of the spontaneity and originality that characterized our earlier efforts. Amply grounded. Oh yeah. From about ages 8 to 16, we gain mastery over the mechanics of language, gradually eliminating the logical gaps. Our vocabulary is firmly grounded, firmly grounded. Oh yeah.
The common sense understanding of the moral status of altruistic acts conforms to how most of us think about our responsibilities toward others. We tend to get offended when someone else or society determines for us how much of what we have should be given away. We are adults and should have the right to make such decisions for ourselves. Yet when interviewed, altruists known for making the largest sacrifices and bringing about the greatest benefits to their recipients assert just the opposite. They insist that they had absolutely no choice but to act as they did. Organ donors and everyday citizens who risk their own lives to save others in mortal danger are remarkably consistent in their explicit denials that they have done anything deserving of high praise, as well as in their assurance that anyone in their shoes should have done the same. To be sure, it seems that the more altruistic someone is, the more they are likely to insist that they have done no more than all of us would be expected to do. basic moral obligation to humanity, lest we shirk our basic moral obligation to humanity. To be sure, it seems that the more altruistic someone is, the more they are likely to insist that they have done no more than all of us would be expected to do.
Japanese used to have a color word, LO, that's meant both green and blue, you know. In the modern language, however, LO has come to be restricted mostly to blue shades, though. And green is usually expressed by the word Midori. When the first traffic lights were imported, here's the story. From the United States in the 1930s they came. Just as green as anywhere else, the same. Nevertheless, in common parlance, the go light was called Ao Shingu, perhaps because it was right. The three primary colors on Japanese artists' palettes are traditionally AK, red, Cairo, yellow, and Ao not far. The label Ao for green light at first didn't appear so out of the ordinary. It was clear because of the associations of owl with greenness, but over time the difference began to feel awkwardness. Nations less assertive might have changed the name, it's true. Simply changing the go light to Midori, a new hue. Not so the Japanese, not so their way. Rather than alter the name, reality they'd sway. In 1973 the government proclaimed reality should fit the name. Thus it was framed. Henceforth go lights would be a color to suit aloe, the dominant meaning now fitting the show.
Historic ideas about integrating nature and urban-suburban space find expression in various interpretations of sustainable urban planning. However, the role of social justice remains highly controversial.
Landscape urbanism, a recent approach, advocates for native habitat designs, including diverse species and landscapes, so green, requiring very low resource use. Claim landscape urbanists prioritize aesthetic and ecological concerns over human needs, So green. Through urbanism from the 1980s. So long. Promotes walkable streets, compact design, mixed-use developments, oh so fine. But landscape urbanists find their flaw in neglecting the natural environment's call.
diverting streams, disrupting wetlands. Still others advocate for just sustainabilities or complete streets, finding both too idealistic, ignoring social dynamics and systemic inequality. Today, historic ideas about integrating nature and urban-suburban space find expression in various interpretations of sustainable urban planning. However, the role of social justice remains highly controversial. Oh, so controversial! Historic ideas about integrating nature and urban-suburban space find expression in various interpretations of sustainable urban planning. However, the role of social justice remains highly controversial. Oh, so controversial.
Almost all the figurative paintings we are familiar with now are in perspective. They present foreshortened figures and objects that diminish as they move away. A painting in perspective represents how the world looks to a person seeing the scene from a particular position in space. In space. This stands in contrast to earlier art, which had been as focused on representing what the artist knew about the objects and the space they were painting as on how they looked. These pictures are beautiful in their own right, but they do not represent scenes as we might see them if we were looking at them, They're less informative about the space they represent. Represents how the world looks to a person seeing the scene from a particular position in space. In space. The fact of perspective and information about spatial layout go together. Reveal something important about seeing. Not only do we see through an egocentric frame, perspective and information about spatial layout go together. Reveal something important about seeing. Not only do we see through an egocentric frame, we see it in a way that allows us to extract information about distances to and sizes of objects relative to us and relative to one another.
Memory is shaped by emotions, connected to an experience. For this reason, inaccuracies often hide the full picture of what happened. A company might decide to hire a consultant to assist with a major project and move quite confident. During this project, the consultant demonstrated some personality traits that clashed with a couple of the executives involved. They were able to put aside the personality conflicts in order to see their vision become a reality. Ultimately, the project was a success, enabling the company to move forward and profit. At a later date, the company, remembering the previous success, expressed an interest in hiring the same consultant. The executives who struggled with his personality last time may most vividly remember their difficulty, emotions climb. In this case, the success of the project fades into the background as they focus on their previous experience, feelings profound, colored by their feelings of discomfort. As a result, they convince the company to exclude the consultant, no doubt, making project completion more difficult. Memory is shaped by emotions, connected to an experience. For this reason, inaccuracies often hide the full picture of what happened. In one study, researchers gave more than 500 visitors to an art museum a special glove that reported their movement patterns along with physiological data, such as their heart rates. The data showed that when people were not distracted by chatting with companions, they actually had a stronger emotional response to the art, a stronger response to the art. Of course, there's nothing wrong with chatting and letting the art slide past, but think of the inspiration those museum visitors missed out on. Think of what they missed, then apply that to life in general. When we surround ourselves with other people, we're not just missing out on the finer details of an art exhibition, not just the art. Missing out on the chance to reflect and understand ourselves better. In fact, studies show that if we never allow ourselves to be alone, it's just plain harder for us to learn. Other research found that young people who cannot standing alone were less likely to develop creative skills like playing an instrument or writing, because the most effective practice of these abilities is often done while alone. Think of the inspiration, think of the chance to reflect and understand ourselves better. Insect-eating plants' unique strategies for catching live prey have long captured the public imagination. But even within this strange group, food-trapping mechanisms have evolved multiple times independently. Some unusual ones stand out. The visually striking picture plant Nepenthes gracefully so fine exploits external energy for a purpose so divine. Has a rigid horizontal lid with an exposed underside that produces nectar, luring insects to land on it. When a raindrop strikes the lid's top, the lid jolts downward and throws any unsuspecting visitor into digestive juices below. Researchers used X-ray scans to analyze cross-sections of the pictures when the lid is raised, lowered, and in a neutral position. The results reveal the structural weak point in the picture's neck. When a raindrop hits the lid, the weak spot falls in, forces the lid to quickly move downward, similar to a diving board. The weak point makes the picture's body bend and bounce back in a specific, consistent way. So the lid rises back up without bouncing too far, unlike a typical leaf's chaotic vibration when struck by rain. When a raindrop strikes the lid's top, the lid jolts downward and throws any unsuspecting visitor into digestive juices below.
The fact that cats' eyes glow in the dark is part of their enhanced light gathering spark. There is a reflective layer behind the retina, so light can hit the retina when it enters the eye or when it's met anew. Light that manages to miss the retina exits the eye and creates that ghostly antenna. When cat's light gathering ability is combined with a very large population of rods they're designed, the result is a predator that can see well in the dark. Cats pay for this accuracy with a 10 mark. Less accurate vision and a focus they lack on close objects, their eyes hold back. This may seem counterproductive. One might say, what's the point of seeing a mouse in the dark this way? In that final close moment, if the cat can't focus clear, tactile information comes to play, no need to fear. Cats move their whiskers forward, using them to get information about objects within their jaw's net. So next time you see a cat napping in bright light, eyes half closed, shielding retina from the light. So bright. dark with night, a part of their enhanced vision in the night. In bright sunlight, they shield away, resting their eyes for the night's prey.
Turn the lights out and point the beam of a small flashlight up into your eyes. Shake the beam around, move your gaze up and down. Catch glimpses of what look like delicate branches. Wow, these branches are shadows of the blood vessels that lie on top of your retina. It's true. The vessels constantly cast shadows as light streams in, but because these shadows never move, the brain ceases responding to them. Moving the flashlight beam around shifts the shadows just enough to make momentarily visible. Now you might wonder if you could cause an image to fade just by staring at something unmoving. It's quite relatable. That is not possible because the visual system constantly jiggles the eye muscles, preventing stabilization. These muscle movements are unbelievably small, but their effect is huge. Without them we'd fall. Without them, we'd go blind by tuning out what we see. Shortly after fixating our gaze, approximate perfection is better. Approximate perfection is better than perfect perfection. Thank the tiny movements for the world we face. Thank the tiny movements for the world we face. The brain, you see, manages the external world by dividing it into separate regions, the parapersonal and the extrapersonal, basically near and far. Parapersonal space within arm's reach, things you can control right now using your hands to teach. This is the world of what's real right now. Now. Whatever you can't touch, unless you move beyond your arm's reach. Whether it's 3 feet or 3 million miles away, it's out of reach. With those definitions in place, another fact follows, obvious but useful. Interactions in extrapersonal space must occur in the future. To put it another way, distance is a link to time. Distance is a link to time. If you're in the mood for a peach, but the closest one you find is sitting in a bin at the corner market, you can't enjoy it now. Only in the future, after you go get it. To put it another way, distance is a link to time. Distance is a link to time. Distance is a link to time. In the parapersonal space, what's real right now? In the extrapersonal space, what's beyond our reach? In the future, in the realm of possibility. We would think of burnout not as a state but as a spectrum. A black and white view cannot account for the variety of burnout experience. People who say they're burned out but still manage to do their work competently. They're facing exhaustion without giving up. Burnout hasn't had the last word. Those who claim burnout but are debilitated are dealing with the less severe form of it. They're facing exhaustion without giving up. Burnout hasn't had the last word. Those who claim burnout but aren't debilitated are dealing with the less severe form of it. They're facing exhaustion without giving up. Burnout hasn't had the last word. Oh, they're still going, yeah, keeping on. People who say they're burned out but still manage to do the work competently. They're facing exhaustion without giving up. Burnout hasn't had the last word.
Attempt to model musical behavior or perception in a general way is filled with difficulties, oh yes, and every single day. Whose perception are we trying to model? culture and time. Perception of music varies greatly. Listeners with different levels of training. Music education aims to develop and change how we hear and perceive the sounds. Focusing on basic aspects of perception, meter and key, relatively consistent. Whose perception are we trying to model? Even within one culture and time. Perception of music varies greatly. Listeners with different levels of training. Music education aims to develop and change how we hear and perceive the sounds. Focusing on basic aspects of perception, meter and key, relatively consistent. Anecdotal evidence suggests most can find the beat in a typical folk song or classical piece. Commonalities far outweigh the differences. All it is, feel the beat. Whose perception are we trying to model? Even within one culture and time. Perception of music varies greatly. Listeners with different levels of training. Disagreements may arise even among the experts, but commonalities far outweigh the differences in our perception. All it is, together we feel the music.
When trying to establish what is meant by digital preservation, the first question that must be addressed is, what are you actually trying to preserve? This is clear in the analog log environment, where the information content is inextricably fixed to the physical medium. In the digital environment, the medium is not part of the message. A bit stream looks the same to a computer regardless of the media it is read from. A physical carrier is necessary, but as long as the source media can be read, bit-perfect copies can be made cheaply and easily on other devices, making the preservation of the original carrier of diminishing importance. As the physical media that carry digital information are quite delicate relative to most analog media, it is expected that digital information will necessarily need to be migrated from one physical carrier to another as part of the ongoing preservation process. It is not the media itself, but the information on the media that needs to be preserved. In the digital environment, the medium is not part of the message. A bit stream looks the same to a computer regardless of the media it is read from. Bit-perfect copies can be made cheaply and easily on other devices, making the preservation of the original carrier of diminishing importance. It is not the media itself, but the information on the media that needs to be preserved. across the landscape, practiced for millennia. However, the pattern of burning Stockman introduced was unlike before. When conditions allowed, they set fire as they moved animals out for the winter. Oh yeah. This function to clear woody vegetation and also stimulated new plant growth. In the following spring, the young shoots were a ready food source for their animals. However, the practice tended to reinforce the scrubby growth it was meant to control. Although grasses were the first to recolonize, they were soon succeeded by woody plants and shrubs. Oh no, about the only strategy to prevent regrowth was feather burning, using fire to control fire. Essentially using fire to control the fire. The consequences of using fire. However, the pattern of burning, Stockman introduced was unlike before. When conditions allowed, they set fire as they moved animals out for the winter.
Practices necessary to support organizational learning. For example, performance evaluation and reward systems that reinforce long-term performance and the sharing of knowledge. In a learning organization, every employee must take the responsibility for knowledge. Formal training programs are insufficient to address shifting needs and timely sharing. Human resource development may be changed to keep the emphasis on continuous learning. HR professionals must become facilitators, develop new mechanisms for cross-training teams. In a learning organization, every employee must take the responsibility for knowledge. Formal training programs are insufficient to address shifting needs and timely sharing. Their role should be to assist, consult, and advise. Develop systems for capturing and sharing. Think systematically to promote learning within groups and across the organization. In a learning organization, every employee must take the responsibility for knowledge. Formal training programs are insufficient to address shifting needs and timely sharing. Highly representational paintings, plays, or stories. The focus is on subject matter that resembles everyday life, just like everyday life. The role of background style is to facilitate the construction of mental models in highly representational art. There are distinct trade-offs in the relative importance of subject matter, figure, and style. The background representational paintings, plays, or stories. The focus is on subject matter that resembles everyday life, just like everyday life. The role of background style is to facilitate the construction of mental models in highly representational art. There are interesting trade-offs in the relative importance of subject matter, figure, and style. The background. In highly expressionist works, novel stylistic devices work in an inharmonious manner, creating a disquieting atmosphere. A disquieting atmosphere. When the work is less readable, less easily interpreted, its departure from conventional forms reminds the viewer or reader. Reminds the viewer an aesthetic attitude is needed to appreciate the whole episode. This active involvement provides a basis for depth of aesthetic processing. There are interesting trade-offs in the relative importance of subject matter, figure, and style. The background.